All right, welcome to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. I'm your man, Big Jack. This is my man, Walt Talks. This is where we prove we are stronger together, that if each one would reach one, we can all grow and glow. And I am super excited about today's show. Walt, what's going on, man?
Big Jack, my man, what's happening, sir? How you doing?
Doing well, doing well, doing well. Got a lot of things going on. I mean, I know we missed you last week, so welcome back.
Hey,
Welcome
man,
back.
anniversary and all.
Well,
30 years of marital bliss. Absolutely.
did you say
Yes,
30
sir.
years?
30 years, man. 30 years, yeah.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Clearly my wife is terrible at making good decisions. She makes bad decisions with extreme confidence, but here we are. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well,
30
congratulations
years.
on that. Look, it's funny because two of our guests just celebrated their anniversary this week. I believe it was Monday. I want to say it was Monday. I can't remember the exact day. And they sent me a picture of the wedding party. And to see myself, and this was had to be 28 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's like, wow, I was young and a handsome
Slim
thing.
trim.
Right? Yeah. So
Young studly fella, huh? Young
I have to
stud.
share
Huh?
that with you. I have to share that with you. But no, we got
Okay.
a wonderful show today. We're gonna get in there. But it's some things that was going on. I'm not sure. Some things, you look at social media and I know I want to put a disclaimer out there because I'm not 100%. I didn't research it as much. I did check my own refrigerator. So they said there was a recall on eggs. Did you hear about that? So there was another recall, or they definitely moved the level up to 1. So if you're looking and buying eggs, so I want to see if I can share that photo real quick because it just had a number on it. And I know normally we don't do this, but I'm only doing this because I don't want anybody to get hurt. And I know we buy eggs and people, I mean, every almost breakfast and this and that. So let me see if I can find that image real quick. But this is the only reason. It was someone else's podcast or TikTok or whatever it was, but I want to see if I could show that just to share this information, and I'm gonna put it up there. So give me 1 second, Walt. All right, so right there, and it's saying, okay, so it was an egg recall update. Nearly 20 million eggs have been recalled across multiple states due to possible salmonella contamination. And then in there, they had a couple of numbers. So if you're looking at that and you look at it, so it's the numbers over there, and I believe it was they look like 1950 or something like that. And then it has another number. So if you can look at that page and if you can pull it up or Google it, make sure you find yourself and check your stuff. So I checked my refrigerators and I checked it to make sure that we were good because of the simple fact that you want anybody to get sick or hurt or anything like that from contamination. A lot of times we don't see these alerts. So that's my little safety alert for today. But other than that, but again, welcome back, my brother. Glad you're here.
Hey, man, glad to be back.
I had to put a rookie in your seat last week, and it was,
hey,
it was
man,
tough.
I called my union rep when I saw that, and I'm like, I think this guy's trying to replace me, man. I think he's certainly going to renegotiate my contract and probably cut my salary. So I'm already getting nothing. So now I'm just gonna get half of that.
Yeah,
we got to split that. Got to split that with the big fella. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what he got paid. Nothing. You're right. And then I see in the comment section that BBTV put out that they have a recall on some dog food as well for salmonella.
Oh, wow.
So start checking your stuff, people, because I know we buy those in bulk a lot and we have those sitting around much longer than normal. So just to make sure so it's almost Pride canned dog food is being recalled. So this it's in the chat. So if you are out there looking, like I say, we're not trying to put a fear out there. We're just trying to spread the news. So this is an opportunity that we just became a news station for a second, so.
PSA for today.
Yeah, for today. PSA for today. So, but no, you ain't get replaced. But at the same time, it was a good show, and we definitely missed you. John Thompson was a good guest, great guest, and I think he's going places in the golf world. So, with that being said, let's go to this week's show.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely. I know you have a good one.
We got a good one coming up. We got a good one coming up. I'm looking forward to having him up on the stage with us, and if you don't mind, we can get him going up here, right?
Let's go. Let's get it.
All right, there he is, Jason Harris. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. That was an impressive opening. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Well, we appreciate it. Welcome to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show. Again, I'm Big Jack StoryTime. A man Walt Talks over here. This is where we prove we are stronger together, that if each one would reach one, we can all grow and glow. And this is part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. Just want to give you a little bit. And our producers backstage right now and even dropping things in the chat and making sure if anything needs to be put in the chat or whatever. So if you have any information you want us to share, your websites and all like that, we'll definitely share. I want to let you know we are live right now on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Twitch. And then we'll be cutting this show up and making shorts and putting it on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. So, but welcome to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show.
And it's an honor to be here. I've been excited about being on your show. And so I'm looking forward to this next hour.
All right. Well, so if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let the people know who you are.
I'd be happy to. My name's Jason Harris, and I started a brand new LLC in January of this year called Mourning into Dancing. Not like good morning, but mourning like sorrow. It says in the Bible, you have turned from me my mourning into dancing. That's where I got it from, Psalm chapter 30. And so it's something it's always tell people, it's like welcome to the great exchange. We can move you from mourning into dancing, and sorrow into joy, fear into peace. And so what I primarily do, I speak at a lot of funerals. And I tell people that, and they're like, Jason, you need a better hobby than that. But the truth is, it's a passion of mine because I see it as a celebration. One of the first things I often say at the beginning of a service is, I just did one yesterday for a woman named Cecilia. And I said, we're not here today because Cecilia died. We're here because she lived. And we're here to celebrate her life, not to talk about how sad we are that she's passed away. And people who come to my services are not expecting what they get because many of us, when we think of funeral, we did a word association game. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind, or the first word that comes to your mind when I say funeral or memorial service or graveside service or anything like that? And it's usually negative. In fact, when I tell people I spoke at a funeral today, you know what they normally say? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I mean, they don't do that to heart surgeons. You know, I performed a heart surgery today. Oh, really? That's cool. You a surgeon? But I mean, you know, what I get is, oh, I'm sorry.
Right.
But I love it because not only do I help the family celebrate life, and funeral directors often say to me, Jason, I tell you, I don't know what it is about your services, but we've never heard so much laughter coming out of our chapel when you do services here. And I love that. And when people say, I've never seen a service like this before, I love that. And so it is kind of a unique approach.
I got you. All right.
Wow.
Well, now, how did this all come about? I mean, now, were you a minister, a pastor, or how did this all start?
You know, that's usually the assumption. And the truth is, I have about 35 or 36 years of minister experience you know, I went to seminary. I got my master's in 1995, about the time, Walt, you got married, apparently.
96. Yeah, 96.
96. Yes, okay, it was a year after I got my master's degree. And so I went to Bible college before that. But here's something most people don't know, Jack. A total of 8 years of preacher training. Ready for this? I had one lecture about funerals. Not one course, not one semester, one lecture. And that's not to cast shade on Bible colleges and seminaries. What I was taught about funerals was kind of protocol. The minister should lead the casket from the hearse to the graveside, or or who you're supposed to greet after the service is over, or things, basic protocol. And by the way, here's a list of popular passages to preach at a funeral, like Psalm 23 or John 14.
John 14, right?
All the things. 1 Corinthians 15 about the resurrection, or John, talking about I'm the resurrection and the life, in John chapter 11. All these things. It's my conviction, as much as I love to preach, don't get me wrong, I'll preach at the drop of a hat, and I will drop the hat. But at a funeral, yeah, it's true. At a funeral, it's my conviction that a family doesn't need a sermon as much as they need a celebration. And this is, it's funny, Walt, you just had your anniversary, and happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
30 years, you're a dying breed.
30 years.
I want you to imagine another 20 years, make it to your 50th.
Okay.
And those of you who are watching, you've probably seen a golden anniversary. And
I've been to 2.
Okay, so by that time, the family goes all out, right? They go out, they'll spend a lot of money to hire a live band and get a banquet hall and decorate to the nines. And that husband and wife, man, they are dressed in tuxedos and formals and they're going crazy, right? Now imagine they invite someone to MC it. They invite a speaker. Imagine how everybody would feel if that speaker got up and said, today I want to preach you a sermon about 5 keys to a healthy marriage. and if he proceeded to preach a sermon, I'm sure that they would say, okay, I kind of get I kind of get the parallel because we've made it 50 years, but hello, you want to tell some stories about us? You want to talk about these last 50 years and how we met, and maybe about our honeymoon and our kids and all the things. That's because that's why they're there. Anybody who comes to that is to talk about them. So I don't understand why we can have someone come to the end of their life. And let me tell you an illustration that I often use, if I may. And I say this at a lot of the funerals that I speak at. I'll say, just to kind of set the tone for today's service, I want you to, who here likes the Olympics? And I'll ask, and that's most everybody, because the Olympics are awesome, right? That's these athletes from all around the world competing on a world stage in front of millions, if not billions of people. And have you ever seen an Olympic athlete win gold for his country to just look over at the judges and say, you know what? I don't want to make a fuss. Just put that medal in a box and mail it to me. Here's my address. No one has ever done that. We make a fuss, right? And they take that athlete and they'll put him on the highest of 3 platforms.
Yes, sir.
And they raise the banner of his country and they play the anthem. And when the camera zooms in on his face, what do you almost always see?
Tears.
You see tears. And that athlete isn't sad.
Right.
He's not sad because his race is over. He's looking at everybody in the stands, especially the ones who believed in him and who were supporting him, and they're watching him, and they're all saying, man, look what you did. Look what you accomplished. Look at the lives you're inspiring. And so I'll use that illustration, and then I'll motion down toward the casket or the urn or the photograph there at that funeral. And I'll say, don't you understand that today this is his platform? You are the banner. You are the anthem. And today there's going to be tears, but it's going to be because we're saying, look what you did.
Right.
So that's what a funeral should be. It should be a celebration, and a celebration of a lifetime. Quite literally, you're celebrating the entire life. That's why I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah, no, and then you hit on some really good points, and I appreciate what you're sharing. The thing, I guess, like I say, because even in seminary, they don't teach it. They don't teach that, in Bible college, really, that celebration. So you had to go, to me, in my mind, I'm thinking you had to be at a bad one to say, I'm gonna do it like this if I ever had to
Right.
get one. So did you have some bad ones that say, man, I'm never gonna do it that way. I need to do it this way?
If I cast my memory all the way back to when I was a kid, and the very first funeral I went to, I remember being a little creeped out because there's a dead person up there, right? I'd never seen with my own eyes a dead body. I was a child.
Oh, wow. Right.
And so you walk in and things begin making their markers in your mind, right? And so I hear organ music playing with that high tremolo, the and you hear recorded voices of the singing, what we used to call canned music. Of course, remember, this is like 50 years ago, just about. And everybody dressed in black, and everybody just almost whispering, and I wasn't supposed to make any kind of noise. And I was glad they had peppermint candies in the lobby, that sort of thing. But it was, it was very traditional. And anyone watching can also, you can picture in your mind, a preacher getting up and saying, "We are gathered here today to," and already you're thinking, why is he talking like that? I mean, what is he, lurch? And now I don't want to broad stroke, brush this in saying that all preachers do bad funerals. My father's a preacher. My father's been preaching for 65 years, and he's 83 years old. And just yesterday, he led the life celebration of his own brother. I couldn't even be there because I was speaking at another service. But I went to his house early yesterday morning, and I visited with them. My father does a great funeral, and partly inspired me in some of the things that I do. But there are a great many traditional funerals that it's just the preacher reads an obituary that was handed to him. It's even called the clergy record.
Yes.
Handed to him 10 minutes before the service starts. He stumbles through the names, mispronounces a few names, and then you never hear your loved one's name again. They'll start talking about heaven for the next 20 minutes. And I'm a fan. I'm planning on going. I think there's a place for that. But I think that a funeral service should be a celebration of their life. And that's but there's so many things, guys, that not only is the service traditional, one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about what I do, I take the opportunity a lot of times to try to educate the people who come to the funeral about things to avoid saying, because who here has had a class in high school about what to say to someone who's grieving? Nobody. And so what we get are all just the platitudes and the things that we've picked up here and there. And I can promise you, if the first two words out of your mouth are "at least," you need to shut up and don't even finish that statement.
That's a great point. That is and that's very common.
Yes,
very common.
At least he's in a better place. At least she isn't suffering anymore. At least God won't give you more than you can handle. And you just kind of want to punch them in the throat when they say things like that. There are better alternatives.
Wow.
And they mean well. And they definitely mean well.
They do. They absolutely mean well. I'm teaching a seminar tomorrow in Fort Worth, a free lunch. And it's to help people understand what to say, and what not to say, and how can I better support people who are grieving. But it's also just for grief support for people who have lost a loved one. Because the truth is, we need help. We absolutely need help. Everybody has the idea, well, not everybody, most people, when they lose a loved one, even if it's a completely unexpected loss, we just kind of think, well, surely I'll get over this. Hopefully I'm going to reach a point where I get over this. And the thing is, we don't get over it. There's a couple of things that I say about grief, but I'll wait if you have another question for me.
No. So one did come up in the chat. So, and we didn't cross that path yet because you mentioned Fort Worth. So where are you located? And so they're saying Fort Worth, and I'm sure for anyone that's Fort Worth, Texas. So
I just moved to Arlington about 2.5 months ago, almost exactly 2.5 months ago, 1st of June. I was living down closer to Austin, between Austin and Waco, but I'm back up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area now. Arlington, of course, is where AT&T Stadium is and where the Rangers play and all that. So I'm right in the hub of all the activity of Dallas and Fort Worth. And I'm excited to be here because, I mean, there's a lot of funeral homes in this area. I know that's not why you moved to a highly populated metroplex area, but the more funeral homes that can use my services for families that either don't want a traditional service or they want someone who, you know, is really going to celebrate the life of their loved one. And there's a few funeral homes that actually already know about me and have started using me. But that's where I'm located. It was a long answer to say I'm located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yeah, and you're good. Yeah, that was perfect. So let me, I want to share that since you said you're going to be a keynote speaker. So I just want to put that up there real quick. So for anybody who might be able to see, at least see it when it come up on the screen. So it says free lunch seminar. So is that it?
That's
5
it.
questions that will change your life, August 17, 2026 from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And that's at 6301 Granbury Road, Fort Worth, Texas. And so there you are. So you can see it while you're watching. Anyone who's watching this, if you're in the Fort Worth, Texas area and you want to come and meet Mr. Jason Harris, he'll be there at that location. And plus, he says free lunch. So, you know, hey, if nothing else, I want a free meal.
That's right.
There you go, right there. So.
And it's not just, and this isn't going to just be a pizza either. This is my homemade, world famous Who's Your Daddy lasagna.
Who's Your Daddy lasagna?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Who's Your Daddy lasagna?
It's about 22 pounds of love. I mean,
wow.
I could feed plenty of people with this pan of lasagna. Enough cheese and meat in there to sink a battleship. So
I was about to say, how many cheeses are in this lasagna?
Oh, there's about 7 or 8 different kinds of cheeses.
Oh,
my man.
Dang. Well, look, if you're in the Fort Worth, Texas, so it's funny, our producer is in the Fort Worth, Texas area. So, matter of fact, was put in the chat that she might move her schedule around.
She needs to come to this lunch. I'd like to meet the producer.
Oh, yeah. So Boss B, everybody should have a
Boss B.
We have a B. So Boss B is in the back right now. But no, that's cool. So we did put it up there. So seminar tomorrow. So I know I read in one of your bios as I studied you that you said grief has a unique fingerprint. So what does that mean? A unique fingerprint for grief?
Yeah, actually, what it is, that's the 2 things I always say about grief. The first one is it's as unique as our fingerprints. And so what that means is when I lose a loved one, I'm going to grieve differently than you do, than Walt does. In fact, if there's 10 family members, every one of them are going to have a unique grief to that loss. Now, those overlap, of course. They'll be sad. There's a whole gamut of emotions, though. And I know that, a popular model in grief circles is the one that Kubler-Ross gave us, the 5 stages of grief. And some say the 7 stages of grief. And the truth is, I mean, Kubler-Ross actually wrote that about someone who was dying and the stages that you go through. It's not even traditional grief as we know it. And grief isn't just 5 neat stages. You don't get over one of them and say, boy, I'm glad that stage is over. I'm glad I'm out of denial now. I'm glad that, I sure will be glad when this anger stage is over. That's just not the way it works. And so that's the first thing, is that it's as unique as our fingerprints. The second thing that I always say, and this isn't really good news for anybody, it's just a fact. Grief never goes away. It really never goes away. And I mean, it's not that it's never going to get better. And if you've lost someone recently, I don't want you to think that you're going to be in this dark place for the rest of your life. But here's the illustration that I use. Are both of y'all right-handed, by the way?
Yes, I am.
I am.
Okay. 90% of the audience listening right now, according to statistics, are right-handed. 10% of you say, no, I'm a lefty, and you're in your right mind. I understand. You got all the struggles with the spiral notebooks and everything else you got to put up with. But for the most part, let's just assume that you're right-handed. And the illustration that I often use when I talk, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, if I suddenly lost my right arm in an accident, and that'd be awful. I don't like to think about losing my arm. But if I did, well, now I'm left-handed, whether I like it or not, because I don't have a right arm anymore.
Right.
Now, there's a couple of things that are going to be true if I lose the arm suddenly, unexpectedly, in a tragic accident like that. One, I expect it's going to be painful. I'll probably be in shock. But after I get over the initial shock of a sudden accident like that, you know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 days? I'm going to discover that the things that I could normally do without thinking about it are really challenging for me. You don't believe me? This evening, try brushing your teeth with your left hand and see how that works out for you. You know, you probably have to shake your head against the toothbrush or something because you're not left-handed. Or you end up looking like a rabid dog with toothpaste all over your face because I'm not left-handed. And how are you going to tie your shoes with one arm? How are you going to write a shopping list that anybody can read with your left hand? Now, it's not going to be like that forever because you will adapt to having just a left arm. And let's fast forward 6 months from now, 2 years from now. Well, now you don't even think about it anymore. You can get dressed with one arm. You can brush your teeth just fine now. You've learned to write with your left hand. Here's the point, though. Think about 10 years after the accident. Are you ever going to reach a point that you say, having 2 arms is overrated. I really don't need that arm. You're all 20 years after the accident, you're still going to say, I'd give anything to have the arm back. I really, really miss that arm. And so it's the same. Now, a lot of this is kind of depending on the relationship with the person that you've lost. I mean, if my mail carrier that I've said hello to once or twice, if I found out he was killed in a car accident, I would think, man, that's terrible. And I might even, it's just not going to affect me the same way as when my uncle who just passed away just died. That's different. So the more I love, the more I'm going to grieve. That's the price of loving someone. Is the deeper the grief is.
That's true.
But you'll always say, my dad's mother passed away in 1999. Okay. That 27 years ago, I miss my grandma. And since one of her sons just passed away and that service was yesterday, I was looking at the slideshow of my uncle that, they put together. You've seen them. And I saw several pictures in there of his mother, my mama. And it was like, gosh, I really miss her. And that was 27 years ago. And so it's as unique as our fingerprints, and it really doesn't go away. But I'll say a third thing about grief, and I'm kind of giving a preview of tomorrow's seminar, but it can be so unexpected when it hits us. And an illustration I use sometimes is, if you've ever been to the ocean and you're standing in the water, let's say you're standing about rib deep in the ocean looking at the beach, right? You can feel the waves kind of lapping against your back. There's a rhythm to those waves, and you can anticipate another wave and another wave. And you may be distracted looking at somebody on the beach over there, and you don't see this 3-foot wave curling over your head that takes you under and flips you over and fills your bathing suit up with sand. And you stand up hoping nobody saw that. and you're coughing and sputtering, but you're saying, man, where did that come from? I wasn't expecting that because I was just feeling all these waves. I didn't see that big one. Isn't grief a lot like that? Because there's a rhythm to the grief. I talk to ladies all the time who they're widows now. They just lost their husband 2 or 3 months ago. And when I follow up with them, I'm checking on them. And when we're talking, I try to listen as much as I can. But when I say, when do you find yourself struggling the most? Well, that's easy. The first thing when I wake up in the morning and I realize he's still not there next to me. And this is real. This isn't a nightmare. I'm not, it's not a dream. And so I know every morning we always had our coffee together, for example. And when that coffee brews, I miss my husband. And that's what it said. There's a rhythm to it. But they almost all of them talk about, sometimes I can be just driving down the road though. And it's not a song that comes on the radio. It's not the smell of coffee brewing in the pot. It's not the smell of his cologne that somebody else was wearing or something like that. I just minding my own business. And all of a sudden I have to pull over because I'm crying so hard I can't even see the road. And it's like that. Or I just washing dishes. I'm just minding my own business and it hits me out of nowhere. So grief can be very, very unpredictable.
Unpredictable, yeah. Now, and a big thing too, and things you notice, and we'll see that a lot of times some people don't have the time to grieve yet because they're still trying to prepare, trying to, put funeral arrangements together and this and that, and get, the big change because that person is now no longer there to do certain things, that they find themselves I don't have time to grieve, and then comes the breakdown, then comes the and they feel guilty because I don't feel sad yet, or I don't feel upset yet, or like you say, they might have that mindset. They might have the mindset of, I'm celebrating life and y'all are expecting me to be crying. Like, you don't act like somebody. It's like you don't know. So it's like, let me grieve the way I'm gonna grieve. Like you're saying, let me grieve my way. And then
yes,
I'm there. I miss that person. But I'm gonna ask you this, Jason: do you find it harder or easier based on the years of that person's life? So a young person, let's say we had a person that was 10 that lost their life, over a person that was 80. Do you find it different in your approach as far as delivering that message?
Oh, it's a great question. 100%. The hardest funerals for me to speak at are children, the unexpected deaths. It's kind of a toss-up between children and suicide. Suicide is suicide's a different kind of grief. And if you're listening to this and you've had a loved one take their life, something that's really at the forefront of that grief is the anger. And then you feel guilty for being angry, but then you're also wrestling with your own guilt, because it's like, maybe what if I would have answered that text, or what if I would have reached out to him, or what if, and it's called a circle of regret. It's a circle of regret. Get out of it. And it's this, if only, if only, if only, if only. That's very common with grieving anyway, but it's really exacerbated when someone takes their life and they're a teenager or a child who's getting bullied at school, or even a senior adult. It's not uncommon for, I can't handle this pain anymore. I can't handle this diagnosis I just got, or whatever. And so suicide services are difficult because you kind of have an elephant in the room, so to speak. Same thing with drug overdose or alcoholism or various things like that. Even murder. Murder victims, those are difficult. But to steer back to what you were saying, it's a very, very difficult service when a child. Now, I can segue into the 5 questions, because the 5 questions can still bring a lot of comfort and even laughter. But I'll tell you, one of the hardest chapters in my book to write, it wasn't in the original manuscript, because I was kind of hiding from it. And without going into the whole story, I can just tell you the title of that chapter is, I Just Want to Know Why. I hear it all the time. And especially when a child dies or when a young person dies. And I mean, I just spoke at a service in Arkansas in December of a young man. I have a child his age, he's 34 years old, and had just opened his own law firm. And everything was great. And that's, you know, to me, that's still a child, because I mean, I'm 57 now. And so, you know, it's the unexpected deaths, and we want to just scream at the air sometimes. Why? And the truth of the matter is, and this is very difficult to even talk about, but really when we ask that question, we're not really expecting the answer as much as we're saying, I object. You know, this wasn't my choice. This certainly wasn't what I wanted to happen. You know, because I've gently pushed back before. Imagine if God himself, whatever belief you may have, but if God himself could speak into this room in an audible voice, like Charlton Heston and the 10 Commandments or something, you know, out of a burning bush, and say, I'm going to tell you exactly why I took your husband, your child, your son, your baby, or whatever. And he says, in my sovereignty and my wisdom and my plan, this is exactly why. How are you going to answer that? What are you going to say? Are you going to say, well, okay, well, now I know. Now I know the answer. Thanks. I'm good. Because even if I knew the answer to that question, it's still going to be sad. I'm still going to be angry. I'm still going to be upset. Knowing the answer is not going to make anything better. But yeah, so that was a lot of words for.
Oh no!
It can be a lot harder in some cases. And just like you said, the juxtaposition is when I'm speaking at the celebration of someone who lived 97 years. And it's like they lived a full life, but I mean, we're still sad.
Oh yeah.
But it is, you know, those are definitely easier and sometimes almost more fun to do. But just because of what I've developed as just kind of the structure, if you will, of my celebrations, young or old, usually produces a lot of laughter through the tears. And one thing that I always say is laughter through tears is a very healing emotion. And so it's a good thing. It's a good thing when we're crying and laughing.
All right. Hey, go ahead, Walt. I see you got a question for him.
Oh, no. You know, like many people, I've been to a few funerals, and I've driven a limo part-time. So I've worked at a few funerals and driven the family. Has it been, well, for my experience has been, well, two things. One, the one thing that we all will have to experience, many people are never prepared for. I mean, the one certainty in life, even before taxes, is death, right? The greatest cause of death is life. Is that how that goes, right? The greatest cause of death is life. I mean, that's it. Yeah. So, you know, what I've found is the people who are not ready to die, for lack of, not excited about dying, but understand that they are out of here at some point, which I'm one of those people. Those, it seems to me, the people who live best lives. I mean, when I say best lives, I mean make the most out of the lives that they have, the moments that they have. Because let's be clear about this, we don't control anything, right? And I've had a few friends who have died, who have had terminal diseases, and each one of them has told me that I didn't start to live until they told me I was going to die. And that is a humbling thing, man. That is like when someone tells you, like, man, I didn't start to live until they told me I was going to die. And it's kind of like the old adage, you know, if you knew you only had so many days left to live, what would you do?
Right.
And if you weren't doing it, then that's what you need to do, because nobody knows. The only difference between us and someone who's been diagnosed with a terminal illness is they have an idea of a time frame, but we could be gone before them. Yet we, the living, so to speak, we still don't make the best of it. And then when you see people who have made peace with it, you know, if you get to go through the transition, and you know, people make peace with it, and the folks who have done all they can do for that person seem to have the most peace at the funeral. The folks jumping in the casket seem to be the people who didn't do for that person what they should have done. And that has been my experience. So is that your experience also?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you made me think of a number of things, and that's, you know, one of the things that I'd love to share a little bit about that is unique, and just kind of feeling led to talk a little bit more about why the services that I do get talked about a lot by the people who come. One thing I want to say is that we kind of have our grief support system flipped on its head. And here's what I mean by that. Most of the funeral, yesterday was an exception because the woman who had passed away had died 33 days earlier. Okay. And she had been cremated. And so the service was planned a month later. But most of the funerals that I do, the person may have passed away on Monday and the service is on Thursday or Friday. And so a week hasn't even gone by. And I want you to think about, in the last service that I did that was like that, the death was completely unexpected. The man was only 64 years old.
Whoa.
That's only 7 years older than me. And
2 years older than me.
Yeah, and he had already had a clean bill of health from his doctor. Just had a nuclear stress test done. Doctor said, "You look like you're in good shape." And that following Monday morning, right in front of his wife, had a massive, just a rupture in his aorta, and he was gone. And when I spoke at that funeral the following Friday, just 5 days later, there were over 400 people at that service. Not a single person in that room would have ever dreamed 1 week earlier that they'd be sitting at his funeral. Right. So everyone's kind of shell-shocked, but imagine his widow and his kids, his adult children and the grandkids, they're all sitting there on those first two rows and they are completely shell-shocked, right? Yeah. Right. Now, so this is one of the things, I've started doing this about 10 years ago. And Big Jack, I told you I had one of these in my drawer. This is a matchbox. And I started making matchboxes. Well, I don't make the matchboxes. I get a 10-pack of these from Walmart for 97 cents. Okay. And then I make some labels that I can cut out. And it's a labor of love. I'm not going to lie to you. For me to make 80 or 90 or 100 of these matches, it'll take a couple of hours. But here's why I do it. And the one that I happen to have in this drawer, because I keep them around the house because it reminds me to keep up with those family members. But this is Ronald Lee Dockery, who passed away last October. Hasn't even been a year, but October the 8th. And that's a picture of him. And his death wasn't expected. He's a little bit older. He was a farmer. And you see on the back of these matchboxes here, I got a Miller Lite, and he loved to hunt. He loved to fish. He was a farmer. He had cows, and there's some of his nicknames there. Bubblehead. I don't remember why they called him that. Granddad, Ronnie, Dad, all of these. But the reason I make these is not just so people can have a souvenir. I get up at the very end of the service and I'll say, on behalf of this family, I want to thank all of y'all for coming today, but I'm going to tell you something you may not realize. They really don't know you're here. And if you're watching this, you identify with this. Isn't that true?
That's true.
And I'll remind them and say, there's a reason why you signed a book on the way into the chapel today.
That's true.
They got pages of these. Everybody signs. They sign it. And they might make a little note or something like that. And at a service like I did few weeks ago where there's 400 people. What is that family doing? They're like on autopilot. Thank you for
it's
coming.
a blur.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Now, and I'll tell them in a couple of weeks, even though they've told everybody here, thanks for coming here.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever get that book out and start reading through the names, I can almost promise you they're going to find names and say, oh my gosh, they were here. They came to his service. I haven't seen them in 2 years. I'd love to have seen them. And I said, the truth is you probably hugged their neck and talked to them for 5 minutes. Right now, nothing is getting in. You need to understand that. I said, but in a couple of weeks, this numbness is going to start wearing off. And the first tsunami of grief is going to knock them off their feet.
Yeah.
And when that happens, they're going to look up and you've gone back to work.
Yeah.
Then the crowds are gone.
Yeah.
And so, and life is going to pick back up for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody intends to abandon this family, but that's how it feels. And so I need you to take one of these matchboxes home with you. Put it in your kitchen junk drawer because I know you got one. In fact, some of you have 3 and you know who you are, and that's okay. Doesn't mean you can have 3 matchboxes. You got to just pick your favorite one and put it in there. And here's why. Throughout this year, this family is going to experience an entire year of firsts. First Father's Day, first Mother's Day, first birthday, your first birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas. All of these will be the first one. So this service I did yesterday, here it is, August. Mother's Day doesn't come around until next May, but it's going to be the first one without Mom.
Yeah.
And so, and that's when they need you, not today. And they're glad you're here. Don't get me wrong. It's good that you're here. But if at random times, if you need to light birthday candles or dinner candles, or a fire in the fireplace, or if you're lighting a barbecue, or if you're just going for that pair of scissors or a roll of tape or an ink pen in that junk drawer, and you roll that out and see him looking up at you, you don't need these to remember him. Who's going to forget him? But reach out to his wife. Reach out to his daughter. Reach out to his son. Reach out to his grandson. And all you're allowed to say, and guys, I say this every time. I'll say, if you're planning on saying something stupid, you don't get a matchbox. And that gets a laugh.
Yeah.
I said, you think I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I said, if the first 2 words out of your mouth is at least, you just need to shut up and don't finish that statement. I said, what you need to do is more of what we did today with these 5 questions. And all I want you to say is, hey, remember those matchboxes that weird bald guy gave us at your dad's funeral? I don't even remember his name. I just thought he's never going to shut up. But we use those today, and I just want you to know I really miss him. I can't pass the lake where we always fish without thinking about him. I really miss him.
Right.
You know,
those things matter.
You know? And so, and I tell you, I never get tired of 3 months after a funeral, a family member sending me a text message with a picture of the matchbox saying, somebody sent this to me today and told me they were praying for me or that they were thinking about me. And that meant the world to me. Thank you so much for doing that. And so the 9th chapter of my book is called Lessons from a Hobbit, a Grief Dog, and a Box of Matches. And that's the box of matches. The Grief Dog reminds us that it's not about what we say to grieving people that they need so much as they need our presence. The new version, I got a new version of my book here with me, and the new dedication page, I dedicated the original book to the reader. So if you read my book, it's dedicated to you. But I have a new dedication, and if you can see that, there's a dog there named Mac. Mac is a grief dog, and he passed away in February of this year. Very sad, but in Mac's short life since 2018, at a funeral home, Williamson Memorial Funeral Home in Franklin, Tennessee, That dog has served over 5,000 families. And what does he do? What Mac would do is when there's a grieving family, now they didn't just spring him on everybody. Some people don't like dogs, and I got to wonder about their soul. But Mac was trained. I mean, they pour thousands of dollars into the training of this dog. And you know what that dog does? First of all, dogs are very intuitive. They know who's grieving, and they'll walk over to that grieving widow or that child or grandchild, and they'll sit down. He'll sit down right at their feet, put his big white fluffy head right in his lap, and he looks up, and you know what he says? And I'll say this at my grief seminars. You know what he says? And man, they get their pens ready like, I want to know what a professional, what's the magic words of the, I said nothing, because he's a dog. And dogs I mean, it would, can you imagine if that grief dog looked up and said, well, at least he's not suffering anymore? I mean, the dog doesn't say stupid things like we do.
But
so
he's there to show his
thousands of dollars on a grief dog when he can't say anything. And the reason he's so effective is because everything about his presence says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit right here with you. And I'm just going to let you hurt.
Yeah.
You can pet me if you want. And so I tell people, this is what I'll say tomorrow when we're eating lasagna, is just be a dog. Learn to be a dog. Now, don't ask people to pet you. That'd be weird. But just be a dog. It's not about at least, or God won't give you more than you can handle. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear any of your platitudes. They don't want to hear your advice. They don't want to say, well, you need to get more rest, or you need to be sure and do this. No. Be a dog and use a matchbox. Use something that reminds you to stay on the journey with the family.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we haven't even got to the 5 questions yet.
No, go ahead.
We're going to get to them, though. You're going to give them to us for sure.
I'll rattle them off for you because I know we only have 7 or 8 minutes left, and I don't want to go over my time here.
You good?
But no, get your please.
But let me just say this. So the reason I came up with the 5 questions, there's a reason why I came up with the question, and there's a reason why I wrote the book, and both of them had to do with these 5 questions. The reason I came up with the 5 questions is suddenly I started being asked to do funerals all the time for people I didn't know. It's one thing. Now, years ago, I was a pastor of a church. And as a pastor, you're the go-to. It's the expectation. Why? Because pastors can marry them and bury them. If you need a wedding, call the preacher. If you need a funeral, call the preacher. That was just the expectation. And the preacher has 1 or 2 sugar sticks, funerals that they preach and just change the name. And it's always the same sermon. And that's, I mean, it's kind of what we do. And it's the expectation, but it's always somebody in the church. It's always somebody that, well, we went to your church, so you do the funeral. Well, now when word got around, Jason does a pretty good funeral. And there's a lot of laughter. I mean, funeral directors speaking in the back saying, what's going on in there? It sounds like a comedy club, you know? And so as I started being asked to do more and more funerals, I thought, well, how am I going to celebrate the life of somebody I didn't know? And so if I can ask these 5 questions to as many family members as I can, not only is the service that I'm going to do going to be very personable about that person, about their life, but I use the same questions to interview the crowd, and nobody's expecting that. And so what the questions are, just to rattle them off, is what did you call this person? Because that's the first question, because I don't want just the obituary name. You imagine how I would have felt if somebody would have got up at my grandmother's funeral and talked about Mabel Lee Harris just because that's her name. I'd have said, who? Because I didn't call her by her name. That's my mamaw.
Right.
And when I hear mamaw, that means chocolate-covered tea cakes and train wreck ballads and Froggy Went A-Courtin' on the guitar and all those things. That's who I think of when I hear mamaw. And I want to hear the other nicknames and terms of endearment and the things that we love. And, you know, sometimes when I get to this part of the service, the family learns things. They didn't know that people at work called him Slick or whatever.
About that.
Yeah.
And so they hear other nicknames. The second question is my favorite one. If you could describe your loved one with just one word, what would it be? I'm not asking for a speech. I'm asking for a word. And when I am doing a family intake and I'm meeting with that family, I ask them to write it down first. Here's why. I can ask 10 family members that question. You know how many answers I get? Different answers? 10. Almost
100%.
every time, even if they write it down first. And it always blows my mind. My mama was funny. She was brave. She was sweet. She was kind. She was generous and all of this. But when I get to that part of the service and I look out at the crowd, what are we leaving out? Just raise your hand. I'm not asking for a speech. I just want one word. And it's like popcorn. All around the chapel, you're hearing it just rain down on the family. She was beautiful. She was amazing. She was funny. Her laughter would just light up the room, whatever. And there's smiles. And at this point, you feel the room literally relax.
Right.
And it's like, he wasn't kidding. Because I say at the beginning of the service, today, this isn't a funeral home chapel. Because that's depressing. Who wants to sit in a funeral home chapel? Today, this is a giant living room. And we're going to sit around with this family. We're going to celebrate Bob. We're going to celebrate me or whoever. And then just the last three. What's one of your favorite memories? This is where a lot of the belly laughs come from, because most of our favorite memories is when something crazy happens. I'll never forget the time that, and fill in the blank. And you get crazy stories and fun stories and the things that I share from the family. And this is where tears and laughter is just all over the place. The last two questions are a little more emotive and serious. I want to know, what's a life lesson that you gained from your loved one? What did they teach you? And that's always very profound. But the very last question, if your grandmother could speak to you just one more time, what would she say to you right now? What would she say to you today? And man, but just very quickly, what inspired the book, what inspired me to write all this stuff down, was I was sitting down on an airplane getting buckled in about 3 months after I started using these 5 questions. And I could rattle them off in my brain like clockwork. And if you haven't figured this out by now, if you sit next to me on an airplane, we're going to be friends. I'm that guy.
Absolutely.
I love just meeting people and talking to people. This lady was sitting next to me, and she finally asked me, after I'd already asked her, what do you do? How many grandkids do you have? Are you coming or going? Is this business or pleasure? Blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, Jason, what do you do? I said, well, hold on to something. I speak at funerals, but my passion is grief support. And her expression changed. And she said, my gosh, where were you 2 years ago when my mother passed away?
Wow.
She said, I really could have used you then. And what naturally fell out of my mouth was, do you mind if I ask you a few questions about your mom? I've never done that before. And it was, and you know what she said? I would love that. Nobody lets me talk about her because they're afraid it's going to make me sad. People want to talk about their loved one. And so I began asking these questions, and this perfect stranger and I began laughing together. And then by that 5th question, we were both crying together. And I got a text message from her. This was 10 years ago. I got a text message from her about 3 hours after we landed. And that text message simply said, you have no idea how much I needed that. And I thought that was so simple. I need to write this stuff down. Yeah. And so that's what kind of gave way to writing about the 5 questions that will change your life. There's 2 other applications to these 5 questions that are in the book. But I tell you, it's not what we say, it's what we let them say, and validate what they're feeling. Listen to them, show up, be present. It's not about you giving them advice. You need to show up and just be there. So I know we're out of time, but man, I I hope I can come back sometime because I really enjoyed talking to you guys about this.
Oh, wait a minute. No, we're good. Jason, I want to put the book up there for those who are watching, and you can see that's the book right there. Good Grief, Celebrate Your Life. Jason Harris. And where could we find the book?
Well, it's going to be on Amazon soon. It's not quite on there yet, but if you drop that title in Google, it'll give you a few platforms that it's on. This new edition of it, you might find the old one. I wrote it 6 years ago. This is a brand new edition with 2 or 3 new chapters, the reason why I've rewritten it, and some other things like that. But there will be an audio version available in just a couple of weeks. Not quite yet. And by the way, I didn't write this book to sell it, even though it's going to be for sale. The vision wasn't so I could make money, selling the book. I love giving these away after I do a funeral. In fact, the very first one, I had 10 copies that got sent to me because they just dropped. And so I gave my very first one away to the daughter of the woman who passed away and whose service I did yesterday. And I love to sign it in loving memory of your loved one. And I want you to know, if you're listening to this, I don't care where you are in the United States or Canada or the world, there's no place I won't go to come and speak at a funeral. If you have a loved one that's on hospice, if you have a loved one that's recently passed away, if your loved one was cremated and you never had a service, I'm telling you, you need to celebrate your loved one's life. That's why it's called Good Grief. Celebrate your life. The book is about grief recovery, but it's also sounding like Charlie Brown. Good grief.
Yeah.
Celebrate your life. And it needs to be celebrated, and I can help you do that. Morning into dancing. My vision for Morning Into Dancing is to get on as many stages as I can. I'd love to come speak at your church, your school, your community center, your Sunday school class. I don't care who. It doesn't have to be a big crowd. I'll speak in a broom closet with 4 people that are interested. And I can get to where you are. And I'm going to start training people to do funerals the way that I do. It's really not rocket science. But if I can build a database of Morning Into Dancing certified celebrants and become a household name among the 25,000 funeral homes in this country, I want someone in Connecticut or Rhode Island or Nevada or wherever to say, well, if they're a Morning Into Dancing celebrant, it's going to be a great service. And so I could teach you how to do this. And I would love to teach you how to do this, but I'm trying to get the whole speaking career off the ground. So just a little announcement: in just a couple of weeks in Las Vegas, Nevada, I'm going to be in a speaker competition called the Ultimate Speaker Competition, and hopefully, if I do well, I can be an award-winning speaker then. And so, but I'll be speaking in Connecticut next month. And I'm just trying to get on more stages. So if you'd like me to come speak at your church, at your school, at a hospital, anywhere, and do a book signing, or if you'd like me to speak at your loved one's funeral, I'm available, and I would love to come do that.
All right, and we're going to put your website back in the chat. So for those who are out there and you want to make contact with Jason Harris, and for whatever reason, he's just explained all the different reasons you can make contact with him, please do so. So I mean, we're not pushing or promoting anything. And like I say, sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen, but he hit us so many different ways, because if you haven't had the opportunity to celebrate the life and you still want to celebrate the life, and I know Jason, one of those was really big during COVID time, because everyone was shut down, and then things were so delayed that they didn't have the opportunity, and they missed out and this and that. And it's almost like no one cared that my loved one passed, and it wasn't that they didn't care. We was just all shut down at that time. So we had to find other ways to do it. And it didn't seem real to a lot of people. So that's another opportunity to make it feel real to you, if you feel that you neglected that person or you was neglected yourself. But I did put it back in the chat. And Jason, it has been a true pleasure having you on the stage. I mean, for sure. And I mean, your vision is needed. It reminded me of it was funny. I don't know if you think it's funny or not, but it was saying they say the cost of funerals is going up, but they blame it on the cost of living. And I'm like, how they do that? How they blame it on the cost of living, but the cost of funerals are going up. But with that, and we know that is part of it too. A lot of people they don't get they just get the person that comes in and just says some words because it came with the package, but to actually have someone that's going to help you celebrate your loved one's life is needed. It really is needed. Just no different than, like you say, we marry him and we bury him.
That's right.
And those two are real celebrations. I mean, yeah, I would say you're probably more upset or bothered or sad in the wedding than you are in the funeral. But you know, if you knew what you was getting ready to go into, you'd be like, oh. But no, I'm just joking.
By the way, I do weddings as well. I've got a wedding coming up in October. I'm very, very excited about. Right. And there's so many more things I would love to talk about, but one thing that you hit on, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, what got me into all of this is helping people prearrange their funeral. That may sound morbid to you, but I would ask you two questions. If you're listening to this, the first, have you ever had to make arrangements for a loved one? And if your answer is no, I've never had to do that, you have no idea what it's like. You've got about 100 questions that you've got to answer rapid fire in a funeral director's office on the worst day of your life. If you're the one that has to do that for your mother, your father, your spouse, your child. And the second question I ask is, if your death occurred yesterday, I used to ask it sounded like Billy Graham, if you were to die tonight. And I don't ask it that way anymore because people just say, no, I don't want to think about that. Well, I know you didn't die yesterday because here we are. You're listening to this right now. But if your death occurred yesterday, somebody would be at the funeral home today making your arrangements. If you died in a car accident, if you died, 60% of the funerals I speak at, it's an unexpected death. And so you owe it to your family and your loved ones to just take 30 minutes with someone who can help you prearrange, because you can freeze the cost of the services now. If you live another 30 years, just like Big Jack was just saying, those costs keep going up about 7% every year. That means every 10 years, it's about 70% more than it was 10 years ago. But you can freeze the cost and you can pay it out in 3, 5, or 10 years. And it's insured. And so if you're only paying $60 a month for a funeral service, and I step in front of a bus next week, don't do that, by the way. I don't recommend
don't do that.
But if you are in an accidental death, nobody has to keep paying for it, and it's all covered. And people don't even know you can do that. Less than 17% of the people watching this have prearranged their funeral. So I can hook you up with that too. But I encourage you to do that. And so that's something else. But I love to meet your producer. Tell her she lives in Fort Worth. We'll catch her in a minute because she's backstage. So Jason, we'll ask you to hang over. Don't go anywhere as we close out this show. All right. But Walt, I appreciate you being my brother. Go ahead. You got something? I know you got something. Go ahead.
But no, just say, man, just wanted to compliment you on your haircut, man. Nice haircut.
I love your haircut, man. We can ride the windows down.
Nice haircut, man. Absolutely.
No, I'll be at the barber tomorrow. Man. I'll be at the barber tomorrow. It won't be your style, but I'll be at the barber.
Yeah, man. You know, it's just like, man, nice haircut, man. Barbershop days are gone. You got a good conversations, but you know, that's 2 hours of my life that that you never get back, Jack, when you're sitting in the barbershop, man. So make the best of it, bro.
I'm gonna rock it out tomorrow. So
anyway. My man.
Jason, it's been a pleasure. Everyone out there watching and those who are going to watch, we say we thank you for tuning in to the Iron Sharpening Iron Show, part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. We thank Jason Harris for being with us today. A lot of good information. Like I say, it was a movie I watched. I think it was Predator, one of the Predator movies. I think Predator 2. And he said, everybody want to go to heaven. Nobody want dead. Nobody ever want to go to die, but you want to go to heaven. but it is part of life. It just as much as life, there's going to be death, and we know that's the one thing that we will have. And sometimes you got to be prepared for it. And the more you are prepared, I don't say it's ever going to be easy. Like you say, grief is going to be hard, and it's going to have some moments, and it's not going to go away. But you'll learn to celebrate that life and not so much mourn the life. And so good grief. Thank you. And I want you to go out and buy that book. And we're going to be talking with Jason Harris later, but we'll get him back on this stage because I know it's a lot. We barely scratched the surface, so we got so much more to talk about. But until next time, we're going to ask you to continue to tune into the Iron Sharpening Iron universe, continue to hang out with us on all the different shows and all the different content creators that fall under the universe umbrella. Until then, have a safe week. We'll talk to you later. Peace. Stay back, Jason, please. Thank you.